Welcome everybody to the monthly Archimedes Grand Rounds, formerly the CERCI seminar series. I'm your host, Kevin Fu from Northeastern University and the Archimedes Center for Healthcare and Medical Device Cybersecurity. So just a reminder, this is every third Thursday of the month during the academic season, and we meet from this 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern slot every third Thursday. So welcome back. Also, thanks to the Archimedes members for their support. Without their support, these seminars wouldn't be possible. So we're glad to be helping students to learn about the space and help with their career building, and also helping our members solving medical device security problems. So a few housekeeping bits of information before we get started into this panel presentation. We welcome questions. We don't have a chat function, but what we do have is a Q&A feature. So if you have a question, you may add that to the queue. So we encourage everybody to ask questions. Of course, if one person is asking multiple questions, you'll probably find us choosing only one of your questions. So please do that, but please do that sparingly. And submit questions at any time throughout the presentation, and we'll be pausing periodically to take a look at the queue of questions. So this has become known as the Archimedes Medical Device Security Grand Rounds every third Thursday at 3, or T3TET is what we're calling it, because we thought that'd be easy to roll off the tongue. Just to give you a heads up of some of the upcoming Grand Rounds that we'll be holding. Next month in April on the 16th, we'll be holding a panel on brain and neural implant cybersecurity, everything related to neuro as well as neurosurgery. And that'll be on Thursday, April 16th at 3 p.m. Eastern. And then on May 21, I'm really pleased to be hosting a plenary talk by Matthew Scholl, formerly of NIST, and he's going to talk about standards as a side of post-quantum, how it works, eggs and bacon. And Matt brings a wealth of knowledge, having led the team at NIST and the different groups. Some of his groups, for instance, managed standardization of block ciphers, like the creation of AES. And he'll be going through a whole lot of nitty-gritty based on his knowledge of where all the bodies are buried. If you'd like to be kept up to date on our seminar series, make sure to register online, or you can just email archimedes@northeastern.edu and we'll make sure you're on our distribution list. So a little bit about myself. I'm the director of the Archimedes Center for Healthcare and Medical Device Cybersecurity. I'm also a professor here at Northeastern University in both electrical computer engineering and Curry College of Computer Sciences, as well as the Department of Bioengineering. I got my PhD from MIT and was previously the acting director for medical device cybersecurity at FDA. We've hosted a whole bunch of really exciting plenaries and panels and fireside chats over the last several years. Here are a few of them. I need to find a font that's even smaller in order to list them all. But we like having a whole host of different subjects, ranging from the extremely technical of the mathematics of cryptography, and then on the other side, the more practical and sort of market-driven approach with regulatory aspects. So we cover everything from the right brain to the left brain. Today's talk is going to be a little bit of both. So today, I'm pleased to be hosting Oleg Yusum. He's the Vice President and Chief Product Security Officer from Illumina. And we're going to be holding a panel discussion today on building a product security team for medical device manufacturers. And I'm joined today by Axel Worth from MedCrypt. And he and I are going to be on the panel today during the discussion. And I'll say Oleg came at an interesting time for Illumina. Of course, Illumina makes a number of products, including DNA sequencers that are then used by many other companies and healthcare providers in the medical device ecosystem. He's also had to handle vulnerability disclosures. He's had to handle how to hire a whole team from scratch, and it can be very challenging. And so I thought it'd be great to learn from his battle scars so that the rest of our panelists can learn a bit, whether you're at a company now and trying to build up a cybersecurity team, or maybe you're a student or a regulator and you're just curious about the process and learning more about the culture. So what I'd first like to do is give our panelists each an opportunity to introduce themselves. So I'm first going to turn to Oleg.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much for having me today. Thank you for introduction. Yeah, like Kevin said, I'm leading product security program right now in Illumina. That's been the last couple of years of my life. Before that, I was having similar role, also leading product security role program and part of the enterprise security program in Edwards Life Sciences. And before that, my start in medical devices cybersecurity was in Baxter, all the way back in 2016, the beginning of 16. Yeah. So my background is in software development. I'm a software developer by trade and been working in different industries. It's been avionics to start from, and then building communication systems for Army, Navy, Marines, police, and eventually ended up in medical devices. So that's kind of my short story.
Great. Welcome, Oleg. And Axel.
Yes, thanks for having me on the panel here today. Axel Worth, I'm the Chief Security Strategist at MedCrypt, a company focused on technology tools and services to help medical device manufacturers build more secure devices. I've been here for a little over 6 years. Prior to that, spent about 12 years at Symantec in cybersecurity, with focus on healthcare in general and medical devices increasingly in the course of my career there. And prior to that, spent many years working for medical device manufacturers, both in the US and in Europe. And by training, I'm actually a good old hardware electrical engineer, so somehow I ended up in cybersecurity. And in fact, the very first cyber incident that impacted a medical device that I encountered was back in 2009. And I thought, this is interesting. Service technician, USB thumb drive, medical device, spread to 100 other devices, hospital shut down. That's an interesting topic. And I thought, yep, that'll probably be enough of a topic to carry me to retirement. Now I'm sitting here 17 years later and wonder, can I ever retire? And I think part of answering that question is helping to build the workforce, right? Helping to build up the industry and build up the talent that the industry needs to become more secure. So here we are on the panel today, so hopefully I can help give some guidance.
Great, thank you. And just to answer a couple questions, I forgot, we always have 2 questions at the start of every seminar. Somebody always asks, will the slides be provided? And they also ask, will it be recorded? Of course, for the regulars, the answer is yes, you'll be able to find it on our website. So we'll go ahead and say that. And I can see our court jester, Ken Hoyme, already is in full swing with questions, and we'll see if he elevates to our Andy Richter chair at some point during the seminar. So I think we'll turn now back to Oleg. Help me paint a picture. What year was it? You came in to a company, and what was your charge? What were you charged to do?
Thank you, Kevin. As usual, your questions are very to the point. So it was the very beginning of 2024. So to be specific, it was January 8th. So my wife insisted on us taking a proper Christmas break after learning that I'm changing the job. Since knowing me, she said, well, you're getting yourself into something again, and next couple of years I'm not going to see you. So jokes aside, it was a challenging moment for Illumina from product security perspective. As you all know, there are a couple of previous years, there was 2 public recalls, which affected multiple platforms, and that there was then also publicized news about Department of Justice investigation, which happened a little later, already in 2024, as I already took the reins. There were a fair amount of items to solve in product security in Illumina when I was hired, and that was the reason why I was hired. There was a change of leadership in Illumina shortly before I was hired. There was new board members, new CEO, a lot of changes in the leadership team, and one of the new orders of business were definitely to give priority to product security, build appropriate program, bring in the leader who will be driving it, and solve all the issues there and turn it from the weaknesses into the strengths. So that's kind of what I was challenged with as I walked into the company door, and ever since it was a couple of very fast years. So it was good. It was good. I don't know, Kevin, did I answer your question?
Well, it's helpful, I think, just for the participants. I'm sure some of them are familiar with Illumina's history, but many are not. And I think the context of vulnerability disclosures and handling that could be helpful of sort of understanding context of that time period.
Oh, sure. So I was fairly certain that the Illumina recalls are sort of textbook example by now for the cybersecurity professional now. So yeah, let me deep dive a little bit. So as you all know, guys, it is FDA governs us to be very attentive to cybersecurity risks on our products and make sure that they don't cause uncontrolled patient safety risk, which essentially means that the patient can be seriously harmed. And if we find a risk, which we have reasons to believe can lead to uncontrolled patient safety, then FDA has regulation which essentially tells us what to do. And it's so-called 30-60 days rule, where within 30 days we have to roll out a notification and a workaround, and within 60 days we have to deliver a complete remediation. Now, in case if for whatever reason organization was not able to fit within that 30-60 days window, that turns into full-blown recall with all the consequences of it. And so that's what happened to Illumina in 2022 and 2023, in fact, twice. And so that is something which, for obvious reasons, medical device manufacturers are trying to avoid because, well, first of all, it's bad for patients. Second, it's costly for medical device manufacturer. And finally, I mean, public image is also suffering. This is not a good thing for a company. So so that's those two situations alone raising usually quite a bit of a red flag with the company leadership and saying, look, situation is not very great. You need to do something about it. And so that's exactly what happened in Illumina as well. And company leadership did take very decisive measures to solve that situation, and that's where they brought me.
And so, Axel, I'm wondering if you could help paint a picture here as well. More generally, what Oleg was referring to was, of course, the 806 exemptions. Would you mind putting on your regulatory hat and explaining what are these criteria, and when do you get a cybersecurity recall? Would you be able to go into that a little bit?
Sure. In the FDA pre-market guidance, they spell out pretty clearly what the requirements are around vulnerability notification once it is discovered, and remediation, meaning providing a patch or other fix. And depending on the severity and whether the risk is what FDA calls controlled or uncontrolled, there are more or less aggressive timelines to respond to. Another criteria is also a manufacturer's active participation in an ISAC or ISAO, that they basically participate with the community in communicating about risk. That provides certain exemptions in favor of that participation. So obviously, in the most serious case Oleg was referring to, there is a pretty strict timeline in terms of communicating in 30 days and providing a fix in 60 days, which can be quite challenging for medical device manufacturers. But also on top of that, if there's evidence of harm or the risk of harm, that may then lead to corrective action in the market, be it, for example, a recall or other corrective action that may get enforced by the FDA. And we've seen several of those over the last couple of months, few years, specifically related to cybersecurity, including some cases where the product was actually end of support, and the chosen path then was a removal from the market or use at your own risk. So again, there's a degree of complexity how this can and should be addressed by the manufacturers. But definitely the choices are very limited depending on the type of incident and the severity of the incident.
And it's anytime you see a recall, you can know that if it's cybersecurity related, I'm not aware of too many other reasons other than not meeting the 806 exemptions for that to occur. But right on the severity. So before I turn back to Oleg, I'm going to start a poll. So for our attendees, we're trying to get a sense of to what degree you might be building a product security team. And we'll leave this poll open for a couple minutes. It just goes through five questions related to building a product security team. So please go ahead and fill out that poll so we can learn more about what are some of the topics that are of interest to you. But Oleg, I want to turn back to the subject of today. So we've already talked about Illumina and the context of your coming in after there were a series of cybersecurity related recalls. And so what step, so if a company, and this is limited, I think, to companies to some extent, maybe HDOs, but if you're a company and you're building a team of people, where do you even start?
That's a great question.
And does it involve lots of like holy water or
yeah, absolutely. There's that unique church where you have to get that water from too, and there's not an easy route there. There's at least a couple of dragons you will have to circumvent. No, being serious, usually the first thing which we accomplishing when we building the program, especially building the program from scratch. We building a process. We building a process which will lead us to compliance with FDA regulation. And we integrating that process, we expressing that process in what called SOPs, standard operating procedures, in WIs, in instructions, in templates, all of that. But much more importantly, we integrated into quality management system. This is a very important step, because if you just wrote the process, you just wrote some kind of SOPs and they sit in somewhere in dedicated directory, then there's only very little use to that. They, of course, need to be integrated into quality management system. And of course, they need to be hooked into existing process, which basically means SDLC should start saying, you cannot move from this gate to that gate without those cybersecurity deliverables being in place according to that SOP. This is how you achieve those deliverables. And that's a step number 0. This is your kind of catch-all on your switch statement. And that's kind of what you do. That's the first step. I saw that, Kevin, did you wanted to say something about it?
Oh, yeah, and then we're going to turn to a question. But the academic in me will always listen for any acronym and immediately go, wait, not everybody knows what the acronym is. And I heard 2. I know what they are, but not everybody on the call will. SOP and SDLC. So why don't we EXPN SDLC?
Sure.
We'll start there. What's SDLC?
Right. It's a software development lifecycle. It's a software development lifecycle. So this is really everything what we do with the product, from the ideation to disposal. This is it. The entire life cycle of the product. How you imagine it, how you develop it, how you tested it, how you manufacture it, how you roll it out, how you support it, and how you finally retire that product. So this is all it is.
Right, and there are many different kinds of SDLCs. I think one of the earliest ones grew out of Microsoft during their, was it Windows 95 or Windows XP? I forget which, but around 2000 or so, the famous Microsoft Bill Gates memo about focusing on security. I believe that was, if not the earliest, one of the earliest.
Yeah. No, security as part of SDLC, that was a team very, very early, you're right. Now, how to put it? There is a difference, all right, between declaring it and actually
we care about your security. It's one of our priorities.
Exactly. There's a big difference between that statement and something which actually ticking and making changes on products. And Microsoft is a great example. I mean, not that like just a couple of years ago, their CEO once again had to make a very similar statement, if you remember, and send a memo again to employees saying that if you have to choose between doing something else and doing security, choose security. This is how far they fell down that ladder. And that caused actually quite a bit of implementation effort, and I'm hearing it was very successful, at least from Microsoft people. So again, it seemed to be having a cyclical nature of a little bit. But coming back to your question, kind of what we do as a next step after setting up the appropriate process, you building capable team to actually operate on that appropriate on that correct process, right? And so building the capable team, that is where a big challenge is, because what is the capable team, right? And then we have to define for ourselves what kind of program we're building. Maybe we're building a compliance program just to meet all the check marks of FDA and make sure that our submissions are passing, we don't fail audits, that type of things. Then we need people who can do a whole bunch of paperwork in a very convincing manner. Right? So we need to hire people with auditors background. We need to hire people maybe with quality background, policymaker background, that type of thing.
And actually, that's a good segue to one of the questions we received when I've forgotten the phrase you used. Was it compliance and paper?
Compliance-driven program, yes.
So I noticed one of the questions uses an acronym, GRC.
Yes.
Oh, did you just go, oh? So what is GRC to you? And what is the where does it appear in the portfolio of risk management?
No, I mean, GRC is very important. GRC is governance, risk, and compliance.
Mm-hmm.
So having a GRC department, especially for enterprise security, is critically important. But what I'm talking about is your product security program all GRC only, or is there a secure design element to that as well?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're making a choice and you're saying, I want to build a deep integration with R&D program, I want to build secure design type of program with emphasis on secure design. Sure, we will have GRC element there. We, of course, will have all the necessary paperwork and we will manage our risks accurately and all of that. But our emphasis will be on building security features into design of the products and seeing the security posture actually improve from one release into another. And to do that, we will integrate very closely with our R&D organization, and we will work with them hand by hand, providing low-level designs, providing proofs of concepts wherever necessary, working with them on implementations, guiding them through verifications and stuff like that. Then, if we're making that choice, then we need entirely different type of crowd. We need people with R&D background. We need people who understands that acronym SDLC, who lived through that many times, who knows how product actually is built, and who has background allowing to understand the technology stack of the product and not be too puzzled by product code or configuration and being able to read or, if necessary, write it themselves. That is very different crowd altogether.
So I think you may have partially answered this question, but I'm going to re-ask it from one of our attendees, David from Analog Devices, a sensor. They manufacture MEMS sensors for medical products, automotive, among other things. And he asks, can you define a scalable security organization structure? Would product security, quality assurance / regulatory assurance, and operational GRC be at least one way to structure an organization? And there may be a hidden ask inside of here, but
I think there is. I think there is. So so it all depends. Favorite answer of all security people, right? It all depends. And but I will unwrap it. So it all depends on how many people you have and what's your ratio of people to projects. Because if you have very few people and a lot of projects, then obviously you cannot integrate engineer into every project. And then you left with GRC approach on hands as the only viable approach. You might like it, you might dislike it, but that is the only way you have to go. You will be writing policies, you will be at the very best writing high-level control documents, and send it into organization hoping that somebody knows what it is and would be able to interpret it correctly and implement it. That's if you have a couple of people and hundreds of projects. Axel, you wanted to add something to it, right?
Well, I mean, I've seen the breadth, right, and it really depends on the complexity and size of your company. I mean, I've seen single product startup companies where one engineer wore the security hat on top of what that engineer is already doing. Right, that's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is a large international medical device manufacturer where you have a corporate security function, typically as part of the overall corporate quality group that has a more strategic role, and then you have dedicated security resources within each business unit for each product group that is more of a technical and engineering role. And then, of course, anything in between those two extremes. But I think it varies widely on how large is your company, how complex is your product portfolio, and how quickly can you change direction, right? You are at a certain level, you want to be at a better level. What does that look like? And can you get the talent to get there? Can you build the organization to get you there? So there's always a point in time difference as well.
Absolutely. And developing on what Axel said a little bit, I usually mentally divide the situations in 3 buckets. One in which I just described, you have a couple of people and 100 projects, you are squarely in GRC world. That is it. That's all you can afford. The other one is you have a little more people, but still 100 projects, and you are not near close to the project to engineer ratio where you can integrate engineers on projects. So that is where people typically do something in between. They do GRC, high-level controls, and facilitate something like penetration testing, or vulnerability scans centrally. So kind of trying to do catch-all testing at the end of the development cycle to see at least somewhat if somebody was following all these beautiful policies they have wrote. And then the third bucket, my favorite bucket, the one where I want to be all the time, is secure design bucket. That's where we have enough people to be integrated on projects and actually carry the load of developing and delivering secure design right into the products we build. So it's all depends on the interest company has in security and the funding which is coming into product security team, but it also depends on a degree of qualification of product security team itself. I've been in situations where my product security team was completely funded by R&D organization because my engineers were so good and they were bringing actual value and helping product to go out in secure manner that R&D would agree to pay for that. But again, this is also a question of qualification on a product security team. That's kind of my long-winded answer here. I don't know. Does it help?
I think it helps inform the question, and we have a whole bunch of questions, so I don't think we'll be able to go deep dive on everything, but I'm going to try to choose a few new angles and to switch gears ever so slightly. Let's move from software to hardware for a moment. So we have one question asking the attendee wants to know what are some of the pitfalls that a cloud-connected medical hardware device would encounter, and how would one structure workflows of their engineers? So this is somebody who's got engineers for product. They presumably have a cloud-connected piece of hardware. I'm not sure if it's big iron like radiation therapy, but you can imagine it's connected to the cloud. What kind of pitfalls do you need to worry about for that kind of product security, security engineering?
I mean, just from secure design side, um,
Either from secure design or from talent, like hiring talent, like what general buckets would you look for when you're searching for someone to maybe own that risk management? Are there certain skills they would need? Um, but it could be anything of that nature.
right, right. Um, so if we're talking people angle, I will look for a person who is well versed in software and understands network, because this is two main angles here. The fact that that device is hardware device is actually secondary compared to the fact that it has a live connection to the cloud. So that would be two skills which I would be looking for from technical perspective, and from communication perspective, I would be trying to find a person who is a good communicator. This is something which we haven't talked about yet, but it's also very important. Product security engineers need to be good communicators, because we constantly facing a situation where we have to explain very complex technical concepts to people who have very little understanding of them, and argue that this concept needs to impact timeline, needs to impact cost of the product, and all of that type of things. So we need people who can be good communicators and deliver all of that, and take in consideration not only just the technical aspect here, but also what is really a business case of that product. How does it all play out into deployment case of the product? What is customer ask here, and be able to operate in all of that more of a system level end-to-end analysis, rather than just saying, well, your device should be client in client server model communicating with the cloud, and this is a paramount of your protection, which is a correct statement, but it will not be sufficient for the project like that.
And there are also, I think, two non-technical considerations that are important. One is the division of security responsibilities between the cloud provider and the device service provider. And is it actually clear between the two who owns which part of the security responsibility, and where's the line between whoever runs the data center and whoever owns the device that connects to the data center and to their cloud application? That is one non-technical consideration. Is that clear and understood? The second one is the question of data residency. Right? As soon as you're talking patient data, there are many countries across the globe that require that patient data doesn't leave the country. And then all of a sudden you're in a situation where you have to stand up local instances to host your patient data within that country. So, I mean, beyond technology, as you said, Oleg, there's also a whole bunch of non-technical things that need to be ironed out.
Yeah, and I know I've been brought into some board of directors on this subject and on hypotheticals of, well, what if these two geopolitical areas that agree today don't agree tomorrow and something happens? And it was very hand wavy at the time, like, oh, that would never happen. And it can happen. So the part about countries is quite apt.
Well, in some countries, it's written into law, right? You don't have a choice. If you go to Europe, for example, right, data residency is a hard requirement, period.
Yes.
It has been for a long time.
Yes, absolutely.
I thought alliances were forever.
Oh, here comes Ken. So Ken is an Archimedes awardee. He received an Archimedes basically lifetime achievement award, and for that he has received permanent access to all of our webinars. So we can never extinguish him. But in fact, I might even promote him right now to see if he's on his Andy Richter couch. But I wanted to return to one part of the question. That was the question actually said structural workflows. So if you're thinking about hardware connected to the cloud, are there any structural workflows that would be different if you were strictly software or if you strictly weren't using the cloud? Are there certain structural workflows and how the teams work together?
Well, anything that has to do with fail-safe and resilience, right? Can your device still operate when the cloud connection goes down? That would be, I think, a major consideration.
That's one aspect, yeah. The other aspect is, in some ways, if you are in that scenario, you have more material to work with from cybersecurity perspective than otherwise, because you have a lot of tool set on a cloud side. You have something like key vaults, like IAMs, a lot of tool set which you can capitalize on. But also you have hardware, and that means that you also have things like security chipset, like TPM and stuff like that. So it is in fact a favorable situation for security engineer because it gives a lot of things you can use as part of your design. But definitely it will be an elevated security risk because you have connectivity with external network. And so from the flow perspective, that is something which would definitely have to be taken in consideration. And maybe even we will be talking about a scenario where we will say, well, is that device really need to be connected directly to the cloud? Or can we have a gateway here, or jump server, or something like that? Because exposing medical device to cloud connectivity is really not always the best idea, because you cannot put all the necessary degree of monitoring, of runtime monitoring on medical device. You have your constraints here, but you can do that with a jump server or gateway. So all these aspects would definitely play into the decision.
So I want to, I just shared the poll from the questions on building a product security team. And there's one that's related to this discussion point, and that is it's kind of interesting to me. The question was, how do you envision product security being integrated into your organization? So that's a structural workflow question. And it's interesting. Here it says that there additional responsibility for existing roles versus a dedicated team as part of a product line, as opposed to overlay across all product lines. And I guess this was a multiple choice because they don't add up to 100% here. So I'm not sure how this poll was constructed, but it says 43% of the respondents said they have additional responsibility. 54% said they had a dedicated team, and then 75% said across all product lines. I'm not quite sure how that can be true because 54 plus 75 should equal 100. So I don't know
Well, I mean, you could have a dedicated team on the product line level with the oversight of a corporate team, right?
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. hmm So a little bit of everything. All right. Well, I saw we had a question from, it sounded like a student question. Yes, I wanted to turn to this one. The question is, what are the steps that you suggest one should take to start a career in product security or cybersecurity roles for someone who has, 10 years of professional experience in regulatory, focused in the United States, but mostly pre-market, and I'm assuming this is somebody who's been in regulatory science, but maybe hasn't done cybersecurity, but an expert for years in medical device design. How would they sort of plus up their career for medical device security? Any suggestions there? What are a few of the pathways? And what would you look for when you're hiring? If you see someone with 10 years of medical device experience, do you think, I can fill their brain with cybersecurity on my own, or do you ask them to come back later after doing something?
Well, I mean, this is an interesting one. There is a gap in all the programs I know, which this person can feel quite nicely. We are overflowing with regulations right now. We have more standards and regulations come in from different countries per unit of time than we can even register, set aside process. So if that person can be given kind of a minimum cybersecurity education, maybe we can run this person through a few certifications and ultimately something like CSSP, then this person might have enough of awareness on a technical side to become a bridge and basically say, okay, here's the new standard XYZ. We're already doing 95% of it. Here's what you need to start doing this. And this is when you need to start doing that. In general, teams really need that person because generally people divide it into two categories, those who understand standards and those who understand security. And this two sets very rarely cross-pollinate.
We do have Axel here. I think Axel's here, so
He's a rare breed. He's a rare breed.
Well, but I mean, there are also courses available, even for people that are already in the workforce across the country. Various institutions of higher education do offer cybersecurity courses or even medical device specific cybersecurity courses. And then there was a group of people that, can I do this? I can do this, yep. They wrote a book on the topic. Shameless plug, sorry, but that would be a good starting point, just to mention that.
And if you look under your chair, you'll find a free copy.
I need to look further.
And that actually cuts to Elizabeth's question. With FDA's increased focus on risk as well as cybersecurity, how do you ensure the quality and regulatory personnel who might not have prior cybersecurity knowledge get adequate understanding of the cybersecurity, privacy, and risk management, the technical side? And so obviously, Axel's got his book, but Oleg, besides Axel's book, what are some ways to anoint the quality and regulatory personnel with sort of cybersecurity know-how?
So I really, for quality and cyber and regulatory personnel, I really would recommend CSSP route as a preferential one. CSSP as a certificate has a famous declaration. They're inch deep, but mile wide. So it really does not require a person to be a super technical person. In fact, it is built to accept anyone from any background. And at the end, it gives a fairly fair idea of what cybersecurity is and paints a general picture of what the different domains are and how they work together. So as a good transition point for non-technical person, CSSP is actually, I would say, not a bad start. It requires a significant amount of studying, but it might give a bridge.
A couple of other things.
But there are also, no, go ahead, Ken.
Well,
Go ahead.
a couple of other things I would
Andy
recommend in
Richter.
that
Yes.
is potentially taking courses in threat modeling. Threat modeling is one of the essential characteristics as you go through it, understanding that. The other thing, depending on your regulatory background, is make sure that they start getting a decent understanding about the use of probability or lack thereof in terms of, if a person is very, very safety oriented, may
10 to the negative 40.
yeah, I may not think about being probabilistic because or a short-term way of doing it is make sure that they have acquired a really good sense of paranoia because, in the cybersecurity space, there are people actively trying to do things as opposed to just having failure. So getting to make sure that understanding is present.
But also that leads to the bigger question of cross-training in general, right? I mean, we have clinical engineers in hospitals that need to understand cybersecurity. We have IT security people in hospitals that need to understand medical devices. We have good security people from other industries that need to understand the quality system-driven mindset we have in the medical device industry. And then back to Elizabeth's question, how do we get good quality and regulatory people to add on that security knowledge, right? So there is a big need for this type of cross-training across the entire industry.
So I'm going to jump in a little bit on three questions simultaneously. So how do you get training? One, actually, Archimedes has open positions right now for visiting researchers and fellows. There's an application process. It is part of a competition. But if let's say you're in industry and you want to do a sabbatical and go work with a group that does reverse engineering of medical devices or does work with the industry cooperatively, does these kinds of things, you can mail Archimedes at northeastern.edu and we'll send you the link of how to apply to the competition. And similarly,
do they get a free copy of Axel's book if they
we'll send you a photocopy of the cover. How about that? And then related to that, there was a question on threat modeling, and Ken brought that up. Adam runs a great course. Adam Shostak has a great course on threat modeling specifically for medical devices. And he often comes and delivers this training at the Archimedes workshops. Ken gives it three thumbs up. If you're interested in that, again, you can mail Archimedes at northeastern.edu, or you can just reach out to Adam personally. He's very easy to find searching, and he teaches this for a living. And I think he did his first one at Archimedes in 2020 in New Orleans, 1 week before the pandemic, if I recall correctly. And let's see, the other question I wanted to get to in our 1 minute of remaining time was there was a question from Raj and about basically saying, can Microsoft fix its own issues? And I want to change this question ever so slightly because I'm with you there, Raj. I know what you're really asking. But why don't we bring up Stryker for a moment? Stryker's in the news, and oh, yeah, there's Adam's book, Threat Modeling. So go buy that book. Stryker's in the news. They have good people. We know the security people there, and they're really smart. They do now own some of the legacy that has been at Stryker. And there was an interesting Microsoft announcement, I think today, or maybe it was yesterday. I've forgotten the name of the product line. One of you may recall. I think Axel, we were talking about it earlier today. But there's a particular product line where Microsoft's kind of hinted like, oh, here are ways to securely configure this product. And that's nice. But shouldn't things be born secure? Shouldn't it be difficult to misconfigure something on day zero? I don't know who's got some role to play in choices. Maybe somebody made a choice consciously to maybe turn off security, or maybe the system was designed in a way to make mistakes. I don't know. But certainly there are a large number of vendors out there that are really common across medical device manufacturers. I don't know if Oleg or Axel or Ken, you have any comments on some of these large third party. I mean, they are third parties, right? They might provide the operating system or some tool or ticketing for troubleshooting or sales. But any thoughts on that before we close out the session?
Well, it's difficult to reactively address security mistakes that are baked into a product, right? That is when your whole feedback process and whatever comes in, but oftentimes it's only happens after the damage is done, and that is, I think, where secure by default comes in. You mentioned NIST earlier, right? Secure by design and secure by default are important NIST security principles, and clearly Microsoft did not adhere to that in this particular example. Was not secure by default.
I would say let's wait for the full report to come out before we render the judgment on this one, because if the general admin was compromised, then all bets are off. So and then we just saying something. But if it there was the potential to not let it happen if the Intune admin was compromised. Then you could have the authorization flow, more than one person to approve, all that type of things. But if general admin was compromised.
Well, how about we all just agree to blame John von Neumann, Alonzo Church, and Alan Turing?
Okay, sounds good. Agreed on that.
So maybe I'm not.
Oppenheimer.
Oh, and Oppenheimer. Okay, whatever. So we have to unfortunately bring this session to a close. I know it feels like we're just heating up and we're getting into the thick of it, and we have a number of questions we weren't able to get to. If you'd like to learn more, mail Archimedes at northeastern.edu. We'll be back next month for every third Thursday, or 3T3ET at 3 p.m. And next time we'll be talking about brain implants and neurosecurity and neurosurgery as well. So that should be a fun session. And then the next month in May, we'll be talking about essentially the role of standards and what's really going on with standards in cybersecurity and certifications, oh my, and which ones matter and which ones matter more. But I wanted to thank Oleg, Axel, and Ken, our Andy Richter, for joining this session, and thank you for all the attendees. And again, this will be posted online in the coming days, and you can always mail Archimedes at northeastern.edu if you need a pointer to the URL. So thanks again, everybody, for joining. I think we'll close our session now. So have a good rest of your third Thursday.
Thank you very much for having us, Kenyon.